Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Boys, Season 1, Episode 7. It's called The Self-Preservation Society. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, as we're waiting for Annie and Huey to, discover each other. And of course, they hit us the hardest by having them actually have sex at the start.
Yeah.
And she even asked if there's something going on. It's weird, we went to a hotel. And
He's like, nope, no, well, good.
that was his chance. He should have fessed up to a lot of it there.
Oh, obviously.
You want him to. You're rooting for him to make the right choice here, and he doesn't quite do it. And it leads to one of the most intimidating Homelander scenes of the season, which is saying something for a start.
Yeah.
We have Annie and the rest of the seven. Well, 5 of the 7, because the Deep's on his little vacation, sabbatical, because he's not allowed to interact with everyone right now.
Punishment.
Translucent, of course, is dead, so there's 5 of them, and he's called her in to have this meeting. And we don't necessarily notice it directed at Annie immediately. In fact, we should probably roll back a little bit and explain why he's called this meeting, because we have a flashback. Well, we have a few flashbacks, but we have one big flashback at the start of the episode where we see Billy with a shaved face with his wife Becca at this party. She works at Vought. She's doing the PR job that we just saw the other one get fired from.
Yep.
So she that's her role. And they meet Homelander, and he thanks her for her social media input or output or
She
whatever.
took over the Twitters, and then I felt weird because like, wait, Twitter's been around 8 years.
Oh, it definitely has.
It doesn't feel like that long.
If I think Twitter's been around long enough that I've been on it for 8 years, plus it was around for like 3 or 4 years before I was on it.
Jesus. It just didn't feel like that long. I went, whoa, okay, 8 years? Christ.
Yeah, Twitter, I feel like 2010-ish is when Twitter kind of became a thing.
I'm really intrigued now.
Go
when
on.
did Twitter start? That'll get me.
Yeah, what's the result?
Officially founded March 2006.
I don't think it was a big thing though for a few years.
No. Gained rapid worldwide popularity in 2012. So okay, me thinking 8 years.
2012.
Okay, I wasn't being unreasonable then. That was before it was big.
By 1 year.
Oh yeah, but like okay, but that's me going. Oh, it feels like a long time.
That's in the ballpark. That is close enough for Fudgy TV. Like,
oh
writing,
sure, but you
like,
probably haven't had it 8 years then.
That's close enough. So yeah, it's been 7 years since it became big, but it did exist before then, no?
It did, yeah.
And to be fair, I don't think they actually said Twitter. I think they just said social media in this. So I mean, they could have been.
No, they definitely said Twitter.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, may have still been talking about MySpace. I don't know. Probably not. Do you know, we're actually at that point now where even like
I'm going. Was MySpace still a thing?
well, it was still a thing. It became like a music thing only, basically, after a while.
Yeah, but was it a used thing by people 8 years ago? That's pretty too late for MySpace, right?
No, because I heard about this like, even I think after that, where it was like bands use it to promote themselves, but that's basically all it was used for after a point, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because people basically switched over to Facebook around 2008, 2009, and it never looked back.
No.
So that poor MySpace reference in Iron Man 1 was out of date within months of it coming out, and now it just feels so dated compared to every other Marvel movie.
To be fair, so does Tony Stark's phone at the start of that. That sideways flippy spin one.
Okay, yeah, we're right in the brink of like everyone having a smartphone. Like, not everyone had one yet.
Yeah, but no, but that was what it wasn't even like touchscreen. It was this, it was the thing that popped up and rotated. Like that feels ancient.
You say that I actually had like a BlackBerry until like, let's say like 2014, 2015.
Well, you're behind the times on phones, clearly.
I just liked having the tactile buttons, so I refused to move on for a while.
Oh, I get that. I liked it too, but not BlackBerry itself. I thought Blackberries were kind of horrible, but
it wasn't pretty. I don't really care about how pretty the phone was.
No, I didn't like the OS that they used. I thought their OS was ugly.
Well, I never used a smartphone before. I had nothing to keep. Like, it was better than every other shitty old phone I'd used before then.
That's fair. Yeah.
Oh dear. So, no, hey cat. So we have this flashback, and it was bugging me because the actress playing Becca, I was like, I know her face, and I had to go digging. Do you know who it is?
For fuck's sake.
It's
What?
Patty Spivot.
Yeah.
For the Flash, it's Patty Spivot, and because she has different hair, and I thought, oh, she looks kind of like a character from Haunting a Hill House, but it's not her. It's not quite her. There was something really bugging me. It was Patty Spivot from the Flash. That's who it is. But the reason why this is relevant, of course, is so Homelander's looking at the 4 images of the guys that he got from Mesmer, and he's looking at them, and he sees Billy, and he sort of zones in on him, and he remembers that day at the race where Billy was staring at him, and then he has the quick little flash of that party, and he's like, I know who that is. So it's having all these faces and these people that calls this meeting in, but he doesn't bring up the rest of them. He just says, here's Huey, young Hugh. And of course Starlight seems like, wait, what why is Huey on the screen? And he's like, he killed Translucent. It's like, what? No, Huey's not a killer.
And he's managed to get rid of the Deep. Wonder how he managed to do that with some help.
Yes. Because they also because they bring up that she's the one who like got him into Ezekiel, and Ezekiel was blackmailed, and so on and so on, and
she's the one who made the statement. She didn't even mention the Deep's name, but her making that public is what led to him being sent away.
Yeah, do you know what I like? There's a lot of funny moment in this scene actually, where he's like going, because before he reveals what they're there for, he's going around the room going, yep, some people in this group have been slacking, and some people have not been pulling their weight. And then he just kind of pauses and goes, you know what? Not you, Black Noir. You've been doing a tip-top job, but everyone else.
I can't wait till we learn that Black Noir is truly terrible.
Yeah, he's either truly terrible, or he's going to turn out to be actually like a proper hero. Just like a complete subversion.
No, you're right. It's one or the other. He's an actual hero, or he's worse than Homelander.
Yeah. Also, I love the idea that the evil version of Superman actually approves of the Batman. Like he's like, yes, do a tip-top job, Batman. No complaints.
Yeah.
There's something funny about that. But no, he reveals this, and Starlight stands up to defend herself, and because she raises her hands, Homelander, like, the eyes go red, and he's like, sit down, and it's like, he's going to burn you in half right now if you don't do what he says. It gets super intimidating, and you genuinely feel, I think, in this scene where you're like, where is this going? It feels like he just wants to kill her. It feels like this scene's ending with her death. I don't believe it's going to happen because she's like such a main character, but like it feels like that's where the natural route for this to take is. And it's obviously she's trying to explain herself, and she's explaining why she's done each and everything, and he's explaining things as well. And I love that as he gets more threatening, there is a really nice payoff here to Maeve's plot, where Maeve stands up and says, that's enough, and kind of sticks up for her. And Homelander even cracks a joke about, I don't remember the last time Maeve ever gave a shit about anyone. But it's such a nice payoff for her to actually care, because, their first meeting, she didn't. And not that she's right as rain now. I mean, she's still just drinking booze later on, and she's almost setting Starlight on the same path of just getting drunk to deal with the problems. But it felt like such a great big moment. It actually bizarrely reminded me of it's not as good as this moment, but there was a moment in the last episode of Chernobyl. That show about the reactor number 4.
I'm familiar with it.
Blowing up.
Passing familiarity.
Graphite everywhere. Dyatlov was a prick. That show, fantastic. Watch that 5-part miniseries, really good. But that's her standing up and saying, no, stop this, reminded me of a moment in that. And she kind of like vouches for her and says, look, she didn't know what she was doing. She was clearly being manipulated. Give her a break, right? She feels stupid. That is the thing she's guilty of. She was an idiot. And obviously, this is a double-edged sword for us as the audience, because we want her and Huey to be in a happy place. But the way she's describing this makes Huey look really, really, really bad. And we know he was kind of forced into doing all these things to an extent.
To an extent, yeah. But, I mean, he's not exactly squeaky clean.
He's not. No, he's not. And that's why you wanted him to come clean himself, because him admitting this and saying, hey, these people are this. I mean, she thinks they're worse than she thought when she idolized them, but she doesn't know what Homelander did. She doesn't know what not the plane, not raping Becca, none of this stuff. Like, she knows none of it. So maybe if they explained like how bad this is, she might at least be more conflicted than just, I'm taking you to the police, like, kind of thing. which is our attitude later.
She never really gets that chance.
No. Obviously, the flip side of this is that Huey keeps trying to call her because they realise they've all been burned. They're all like getting their family to safety, should they have any, because not all of them do. But he keeps trying to call her, and she's just not picking up. She eventually calls him, and they meet at the end of the episode. And this is the final scene of the episode, in fact, where he does kind of fess up. He doesn't obviously get a chance to tell a lot of details. And she's like, "Oh, this is all about revenge. This is all about translucent." And he's like, "No, this is about Compound V." A phrase that she has never heard. And she's like, "What's Compound V?" He's like, "It's what they pump into babies to make supers." And she's like, "No, I was born with my powers." And he's just like, "I'm sorry." He doesn't even say you weren't. He just says, "I'm sorry." It's like, no.
Yeah, which because obviously we know she's actually quite religious. Obviously she was conflicted at the expo itself, but she obviously has some strong beliefs.
Yeah.
So this probably is a big kick in the face for her.
Yeah, as is the high caliber gunshot to the chest, which I imagine is also a bit of a kick in the face, if you will.
Probably hurts.
Yeah, because Billy shows up with a giant ass sniper rifle and just hits her hard enough to put her down for a bit so that he can run away. And the fact is that from our perspective, he was in no real danger. Like, it didn't seem like, she wasn't going to use her powers on him or anything like that. I mean, hell, to contrast the story about the Ice Princess at the start, like, her eyes lit up during sex, but that was it. There was no...
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie. There was a moment where her eyes lit up where I went, oh, they're not going down that route, sure.
Where she burns off his dick with light rays.
I didn't know the specifics of what they were going to do, but just... I felt it was very intentional that they told us that story before we saw this.
Oh yeah, it was to make us nervous. It was to make us think something bad might happen here. Yeah, no, I agree. So that's where we kind of have the cliffhangers that Huey just kind of, because of what's happening, has to run off with Billy in the heat of the moment. He's like, I don't want to be arrested, and he knows that like Vought will come after him and all that. Like, he knows that it's just a straight up murder because Annie still believes that they'll let him go through the process and will want to make an example of him publicly and like, let's go through a trial, let's do all this. But obviously she doesn't know yet that they are just straight up killing people. Like, if they think someone's a threat, they just murder them.
What I actually think is interesting from Billy's side of things here is they're kind of on the books now by this point in the episode.
Sure.
So is this a sanctioned hit, or is he going to be reprimanded?
I don't know. I think it's interesting though, because I mean, I suppose it'd be interesting if, I mean, it's moot now because he's gotten away. But let's say she did try to like turn him out of the authorities, and then they're like, no, he's sanctioned. Like,
yeah, with the feds, and be like, he's one of us.
Yeah. Obviously, there's some murkiness to that we'll get to anyway. But yeah, so let's go back. There's another Huey scene we need to talk about. It's kind of a little bit separate from the Annie stuff. Where A-Train, because that's the other part of the big scene where Annie's been threatened by Homelander, is A-Train doesn't recognize him, and then he's showing more photos of him, like with him shaking his hands,
with
like
the apology meeting, and he's like, "Oh, that guy."
Yeah. I ran through, what's her name?
Yeah.
Yes. There you go. Yeah. So he basically has Simon Pegg as his dad at his house, and phones him and says, "Hey, you better come alone, or I'm going to run through your dad." And so he does, to an extent. We do get obviously Kimiko sneaking in. In fact, I actually love that moment. See when you just see in the corner of the frame the vent. Yeah. Opening, you're like, oh, backup's here.
I want to know how she managed to hide from him.
If she was in the vent the whole time, then I guess.
I mean, sure, maybe, but I feel like, I mean, if he was that fast, would he not have checked?
Maybe it just never occurred to him that someone would be hiding.
Well, maybe not. Maybe he's just an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, real life logic, vents aren't big enough to hold people.
No, that is true. But if the vents are big enough to hold people in the show's logic, maybe check the vents.
Well, here's the thing though. What if she's not like at the door of the vent? What if she's like somewhere in the middle of the vents? He's not like going to speed in the vent and go around it.
Yeah.
She was being strategic. But again, this was super intimidating. You felt like A-Train could just kill him at any point, and he wants to. And I think there was a difference in demeanor here from the start of the show, where Huey is kind of holding his own. He brings out the Compound V, kind of uses it as a bargaining chip.
Yeah, and A-Train is coming across as a junkie.
Yeah. And of course, they defeat him by her, by Kimiko breaking his leg so he can't run. Which, yeah, genius. If you catch him off guard,
that bone snapping out.
oh yeah,
Look good.
yep. And there's one scene with him and his brother where they're talking about him being addicted to it and how it's kind of messing up his organs, like they're growing to weird sizes and stuff like that.
Yeah, his heart's growing too big and his bones are getting weaker.
Yeah.
And he's a bit annoyed because without it, there's some random chump speedster in whatever city it was is faster than him.
Yeah, some other fake city. They've got their own fake cities.
Yeah.
So no, that was good. Homelander's a couple other scenes with Stillwell, where he kind of shoots her down, where she kind of says, "Hey, come over for sex tonight," and he's like, "You know what? Nah, you go be a mom." And she's kind of losing control of him. Is kind of the gist of the scene. Like her spell's not working on him anymore.
No, I don't think she's got long left with him.
I mean, Maeve, I guess, kind of has the spell on him a little bit because when she talks him down, she does kind of like do it for me, like, and kind of like banks on their history to kind of sell it to him. And of course, he's very pedantic about it. He's like, "Oh, don't say I don't ever do anything for you," wink, kind of thing. But yeah, so he has that. But the interesting development though from this Becca stuff is that when he realizes who this is, that this is Becca's husband that's after him, he goes to Stillwell, and the other main point of that scene is that he asks about Becca and he says, "Hey, that marketing girl," and she's like, "Oh, I fired her." No, not the recent one, like 8 years ago, or around 8 years ago. And he's like, "Oh, Becca," and he starts asking these questions. I think the interesting thing in this scene for me was like, wait, he doesn't actually know what happened to her. Like, I mean, obviously we see footage later that he does seem like he raped her. That does seem to be something that happened, but her disappearance is something that he's unaware of.
Yeah, because obviously we knew it was either the prevailing theory was either suicide or Homelander got her. That was the theory that Butch had been working under.
And he's asking questions. He genuinely wants to know. He wants to know why this guy's after him to this extent, and he
clearly has no idea.
And he goes to an actor who's in Gotham and also The Wire. I mean, The Wire's more prominent, but I mean, I'm just mentioning Gotham because we watched some of that recently. And he's like the head scientist that looked after him as a kid and all the rest of it. He's the closest thing he's got to a father. And he asks about Becca, and it turns out we get this extended flashback where Becca was pregnant with his child, which had heat vision, which paints such a dark irony to that previous episode where Billy's using the baby with the heat vision to like defend himself.
Yep.
Real dark irony to that now.
Is this the first one that's been born with powers?
I mean, given that it ripped her apart, like the baby tore her apart, and then died instantly, like.
So they claim.
So they claim. True. It'd be what, like 9 or 8, 7, 8, 7, 7, 8?
Well, theoretically, yes, but we also know it was growing really fast. They did say that.
That's true.
So I'm not willing to just go on that logic.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning. I mean, not that I feel like showing a dead baby is a thing that shows do all that often, but you don't necessarily see that in and of itself.
No, you just have him go, "Yeah, it died," and we just have to take his word for it.
Yeah. So.
Also, their relationship, you're gonna hate this. It felt really Harry Potter. In a sense that he keeps calling him John, I think was his name, right? His actual name that they gave him, and he's like, "No, people don't call me that anymore." And it really felt like Dumbledore with Voldemort, where he still calls him Tom, because he knew him as a kid. He calls him his actual name, and he's the only one that does. And it's kind of that weird pseudo father relationship.
I genuinely had no idea what name you were going to say there. I didn't know what his real name was.
Tom Riddle.
Tom Riddle?
Yeah.
That's a goofy name.
Look, it just is. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Anyway, the thing I wanted to say is that in this scene, I think it's interesting that this guy clearly like understands how evil Homelander is and why raising him in a lab like he did was the worst possible thing. That he had no basis for morality, and
he's like, no, I failed. You're screwed up, and you can just do anything you want now because I didn't do the right thing.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting that even the person who was kind of like probably gun ho about like seeing what he was like and testing with him and stuff.
Probably.
Regrets everything because he's created this monster, this unstoppable monster. It's really, really interesting dynamic there. So I want to go back to Billy, who goes after Mesmer because of turning him in, and he planted a tracking device, which is why he finds him so quick. I think it's like a train station or whatever, and he hides.
I feel like it was the same train station as we had before.
It looked like the same train station, yeah. And he runs into the bathroom to hide, but Billy finds him because again, tracking device. And what I loved about this is he starts beating him up, right? He starts punching him, but every time he punches Mesmer gets a flash of like his past. So we get like these little snippets of flashbacks as he's getting hit. It was a really neat little trick to
it was clever
to reveal some of this stuff. And he Mesmer's like, oh, I can help you find your wife. You're looking for your wife. I can help you find her. And he just holds him so he can read him. And he just gets scared and says, what about my daughter? And then he bashes his head into the sink repeatedly.
Yeah, I think that actually his final bit felt so disingenuous. He's like, "No, I have a daughter. Like, don't kill me. I've got a daughter. She'll miss me, and we know she won't."
Yeah, we know she won't.
And he knows that as well. That's why it's so desperate.
I like the idea that he wants him to know that he's about to kill him.
Yeah,
and then he does it, and he does it in a very. It's probably the most visceral death so far. I mean, I was going to call it the most brutal. That's maybe not entirely true, but
no.
I guess what I mean by that is that it's the most brutal in a realistic way, if that makes sense.
It has the most impact.
No, but what I mean is that this is a real. You could people can die with having their heads bashed against.
Yeah, that's why I said this one has the most impact.
Yeah, no one can actually be ran through by another person. No one can be. I mean, you can suffocate someone by sitting in their face, but you won't squish their head like a pumpkin.
I really hope not.
They find a plus size individual probably to do that. I think,
but quite likely, yeah.
Yeah. Put an ad. £500 plus.
Sure.
For testing purposes.
For science.
For research. You understand? So. Yeah, and then the other big fascinating scene with Billy is this flashback to, this woman comes to him and shows him footage of Becca getting into Homelander's like office or wherever, coming out 3 hours later, all disheveled, sort of putting on her shoe again and kind of being out of it, and clearly not this was not a happy encounter. She's like stumbling out of this place.
Yeah.
And we revealed that this is Mallory, who we've heard about, and obviously this is something we're going to learn about, I imagine, a lot in season 2. Because it doesn't feel like we've got enough time now
I
to
agree,
really do all the Mallory stuff. But this is the person who seems to start this initial version of the boys.
I did not realize. Maybe it was mentioned earlier, but I don't think I ever really clocked she was CIA as well. Like, they were on the books beforehand, or at least maybe they weren't officially on the books, but they weren't just a renegade team doing their thing. They were had resources.
Yeah, and then obviously he's got the band back together, or a newish band together,
Yeah.
Replaced a couple of members kind of thing. And this stuff is exciting. I think building more lore into how it originally happened, and who Mallory is, what happened to her grandkids, all that kind of stuff. I am actually oddly intrigued by that. When she said her name, it was like, oh, this is Mallory. Okay, they've set her up enough that her saying her name felt like a big deal. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and they've only mentioned her like 2 or 3 times, but it's been enough.
But it was early though. It was like episode 2 where they first mentioned her. And
was it that early?
It was that early, yeah. Because the first time was in the van, I believe. Episode 2, they were talking about. It was when they're all arguing in the van.
Yeah, fair enough.
So no, that was good. So we do have to talk about the Deep, who has a couple of interesting scenes for different reasons. He arrives at his apartment that he's been given in this small town, and this town's happy to have a superhero, but there's no crime here, and he's going to have nothing to do, and he's told to basically sit. He gets a $75 a day allowance to go and buy food. Yeah, that seems like a lot per day, to be honest, but sure.
Yeah, but I mean, he was probably quite rich up in his big tower in the big city.
True. But I mean, it doesn't cost $75 a day to eat.
No, it doesn't. But maybe he has expensive tastes.
Sure. Well, he certainly has a lot of Doritos and Twinkies and all sorts when he gets to the supermarket. Before we get to that scene, though, he brings a girl back to his place, and she's all into him. She's like, "Oh, is it? Do you look different? Is it weird? Take off your top and stuff." And we actually discover that he's got gills on his stomach,
Which stands to reason.
and she starts fingering them, which he doesn't like. And there's a really dark kind of like irony we're playing with this scene where he's essentially being sexually assaulted by this woman because he says no, don't do that, it hurts, and then she kind of forces it upon him and doesn't stop. And I think it's a really interesting scene from an audience reception kind of way because it's a really hard one to know how you're supposed to take exactly because there's a mix of emotions here, like this is never right, but he's an awful person. But it's also got this weird tinge of humor to it. There's like a lot of mix of things going on.
No, you're right, because it's this kind of perverted justice. You know, it's karma. It's this is what he did, coming back to bite him.
Yeah, but I mean,
but it's not satisfying to watch because it's still uncomfortable, and he's clearly uncomfortable. And it's even when he's an awful person, it's still uncomfortable.
And it's also clearly not something that should be an eye for an eye. That's not the way this works. It shouldn't be the way it works.
No, exactly.
But
it is kind of funny.
But yeah, it's so absurd that it's kind of funny because it's his gills.
Because there's this woman there fingering herself and fingering his gills.
Yes, and I think it is very intentional that he and his assault is also being penetrated. Like it's not, something else. So, but then he has a really funny scene at the supermarket where he starts talking to this lobster who's in the tank at the the fresh fish and deli section.
The fishmongers.
Fishmonger, sure. And he's talking to the lobster, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, I ended up here." And he's like, "You know what? I'll save you, right?" And he gets the guy who's working at the counter. He's like, "Hey, I'll have that lobster." And
because he goes to get another one first. He's like, no, this one. This guy's my buddy.
Yeah, and he's like, "I'm going to save you. I'm going to save you." And he's like him trying to save the dolphin again. And then he's not looking for a second. And the guy who's getting the lobster takes out a knife, and he goes, "No, no, 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 no!" And he just stabs the lobster right in the head, and the brains spurt out, and it just cuts to the Deep's face, just sort of making a, and then it cuts away immediately. Like
this running gag of every time the Deep tries to save some sort of sea life creature, and it making it worse for them.
My favorite part of this is just how quickly it cuts away from him. It doesn't let you linger on it at all. It just he has this face of like not again, and then it cuts away immediately.
I think this one isn't as bad on his part as the dolphin because someone else would have bought the lobster, right?
Oh sure, this is more just like a cruel joke to him. It's just like,
no, exactly, because like the lobster, sure he could have saved it if he'd been quicker, but it was someone would have bought it. It would have got stabbed at some point. Whereas the dolphin, sure, it was in captivity, but it would have been alive.
Mm-hmm.
If he hadn't kidnapped it.
Sure, but it was funny. So
it was very funny.
I'll take it. So good. Not much with Frenchie and stuff this episode. There was
him and Kimiko hitting it off.
Yeah, a lot of cooking going on together. Yeah. I suppose the other thing we need to mention from a character point of view is Mother's Milk also has to get his family, and his missus is not happy that he's involved with Billy. And when they make the deal with the FBI, because this is actually the big plot point that we need to talk about. CIA, where he's like, because he kind of calls it, kind of calls it. He's like, I'm going to guess that Raynor was interested in all this stuff, but didn't want to give you specifically Homelander, and you're holding out because of that. And I understand why, but you're literally playing with my family's life and everyone else's family's life. This is not just about you right now. And he kind of appeals to his humanity. And you can kind of see it in Billy's face that he is kind of reconsidering based on this. He's like, he's right. So sure enough, like they all freak out at one point because all these cars show up, but it turns out to be the CIA.
They all grab the guns and get ready. And Butch is just like, calm down, it's fine. And just strolls out.
Yeah. So he's made this deal, even though they won't give him Homelander, and it's kind of because he's been a little unlikable to an extent this episode and last episode because of how much he's like really going at Huey about Annie. Just from an audience perspective, and I think this is a really nice little moment to just like, no, he does have a heart, like there's human quality in there.
And then about 3 scenes later, he goes and shoots Annie.
It does, but I don't think. Again, this is enough.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, but this is enough to like not make it just a clear cut. Oh, he's been a complete dick again. So no, I think that's a really neat thing. And obviously, is basically told by his wife, I never want to see you again. Like that's it, we're done. So he's kind of given up his family because he's involved with this again. But the big thing comes from this though, and I do love the scene where Stillwell's at the CIA, and she's like, "I'm not following this," and Raina's just like, "Your company's effed. You're so effed." And she's sitting there, "Oh, there's a bill being passed and everything's fine," and then she pulls out the vial of Compound V, and her face just drops. Now, she is a little bit cocky still because she knows there's something that might happen soon that will necessitate the help of superheroes in the world.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that does happen. They go out and, Raina's showing this footage of this terrorist that was behind the plane attack. US forces have killed him, and she's like, "Well, great, that was a planned mission.
That was the plan. Yeah, what's the problem?
What's the problem? Well, here it is." And we watch this footage, and the guy has superpowers. He explodes. He literally lights up.
It's a bit of Nuclear Man.
Yeah, and he explodes the building, and then walks out of the building completely fine. And the big dramatic moment it ends on is her saying, "Are you telling me the terrorists have a super on their team?" kind of thing. So, it's a big thing, and it's like, okay, so they've got all these reasons to put Vought away.
Kimiko was not the only one they were trying it with.
Which makes sense. It actually makes sense that she's not the only one.
Why would they only have one plan? They're big enough to have plenty of redundancies.
Exactly. So, no, big deal. I really, really, I'm really curious about this is going now in the last episode. I know the season ends with a cliffhanger because I've heard people say that, and that makes sense to me.
That's fine.
I'm curious just because I think the threat in this episode really jumped up a couple of gears. That scene with Homelander and the meeting was really intimidating. The fact that everyone knows who these 4 guys are now, along with Kimiko, is kind of a big deal, and it feels like the hunt is on, and they're kind of screwed. I mean, they might have CIA protection now, and like, no, if you go after them, like,
but that probably doesn't help them against Homelander.
No, if Homelander decides to not abide by that, like, it doesn't help them at all.
It means jack shit.
Yeah. So, no, really, really interesting. I'm intrigued to see where this is going now in the last episode.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was maybe one of my least favorite episodes out of the last bunch, but that is pretty common a feeling that I have with the penultimate episodes of seasons.
Really?
Yeah, like, it was good. It was solid. Everything kind of went forward, but it didn't have any of the big moments or anything like that. That I feel like a lot of the episodes have had recently.
I'll be honest, I think this had more than some of them, but I mean, fair enough.
I mean, taste and all that, but for me, it was a good episode. Like, I've still enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, but I enjoyed it less than the last 2 or 3.
Okay.
But still excited for the last one because I'm expecting big shenanigans.
No, I think this was one of my favorites actually. So I'm pumped to get at the last one, but there you go. That's episode 7 of The Boys. So we will be back with episode 8 as soon as we can. Thank you very much for watching or listening. You can like and subscribe and all that jazz, and get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, everything we do here, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month and keep all the shows and all the reviews and everything coming. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?